Hi, everybody. This is Arkady Frekhtman. I'm a New York City personal injury trial attorney, and welcome to Last Week Tonight Live, where we answer your questions and we talk about your comments. And we're here live from our Brooklyn office, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So let's see. I think we have a question already. Awesome. That's really cool. Right from the get-go. Let's see what we have here. We have DM Slots. He says, I had a trial date in August and my lawyer said they bumped it up. How long is it going to take for me to go back to trial? My accident was New Year's Eve 2020 and I'm in Texas. And the reason they bumped it up, because my lawyer said they want to send doctors, but it's up to the judge. To send doctors. Oh, I see. Maybe they adjourned the trial because the doctors couldn't come to court and testify. That's something that happens. So, I mean, I couldn't tell you exactly when the trial will be adjourned to. That's something you have to ask your lawyer, because if the reason is, because of the doctor's schedule, they couldn't come to the original trial date, then your lawyer probably coordinated with the court, with the defense lawyer, and with the doctors to then pick a mutually convenient court date. But I wouldn't know when that is. That's based on the doctor's schedule, the defense lawyer's schedule, the court schedule. I mean, usually adjournments like that don't, adjourn the case for a long time. Usually adjournments like that adjourn the case just for like a month or two. So it shouldn't be long. So good luck to you. Yeah, I think you're going to do well. I don't know what the case is about, but if you need any other information, feel free to text me 347-566-9595. I'd be happy to review the information, maybe give you some feedback. You could also fill out that link. I'll drop the link maybe in this chat later on. The link we have, it just has some basic information like your name, facts of what happened, your injury, which city you're in, and if you have a lawyer or if you don't have a lawyer, just a few quick questions like that. That way I could understand, what happened, what your injuries are, and I can give you some feedback, Okay. And then Audi says, good evening, Mr. Frekhtman. Oh, absolutely. Good evening. Yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. And Callie King says, hello, Arkady. Is it tougher to deal with companies such as Progressive, Allstate, and Farmers? I heard they're a lot cheaper and fight more versus companies like Travelers and USAA. I mean, yeah, there are some statistics. Some people, believe that certain companies are harder to deal with than others. In my experience, I don't really mind as long as the policy is there. What I like is I like to see the big policy, like $1 million, maybe $5 million. The policy. If the money's there, I don't really care who it is. I'm not afraid of anybody. I'll just go to trial. We can beat them all. Allstate, Farmers, USAA. We're not really afraid of them. I mean, the only time that it really matters when people say easier to deal with. Well, yeah, sure. It's easier to get money from a company like, let's say, Travelers than a company like Allstate. And the reason is because with Travelers, if you just show them, okay, I got into a car crash and I have, let's say, an arthroscopic surgery on my knee, and you just send them a settlement package, Travelers is more likely to then say, okay, you had surgery on your knee, here's $75,000. Okay, if they have 100,000 policy, they'll say, here's 75,000, here's 90,000 out of the 100. Whereas Allstate might say, you know what, here's, 25,000, and we're not going any higher unless you take us to trial. But if you take both of them to trial, you can get the full 100 if it's a 100 policy from both. So it doesn't really matter. It's just maybe they're easier in terms of settlement, is what I'm trying to say, but not necessarily easier in terms of trial. Okay, and then Preacher says, I have an ACDF surgery coming up due to a box truck accident. How long after surgery and treatment would you wait? Would you wait? Would you wait until moving to? Yeah, I don't think the question is finished, so I'm not sure. Oh, okay. Until moving forward, he says, moving forward on the case. How long would you wait until treatment from the surgery is finished until moving forward? I don't know. I mean, I don't know where the case is, but like in New York, the way I would do it is if you're having the surgery and if you know you're having the surgery, I would just have the lawyer file the lawsuit. Now the lawsuit is filed, right? So the case is in court. And then, you're going to have the surgery. So then once you have the surgery, get the operative report, the surgical report. That'll have all the information of what the doctor did. You put that information in what's known as the bill of particulars. They have that in New York. It's basically just a list of all the injuries. You're listing out the injuries, They have that in New York. It's a kind of an antiquated system. It's old school. They don't have that everywhere, but in New York, they still have that. So you want to list the injuries, on the bill of particulars. But you don't really need to wait for you don't have to wait for anything. You don't have to wait for you want to make sure that you're going to do the surgery, because if that's the only injury, but you don't need to wait for like any treatment or physical therapy or rehabilitation to be done, because remember, the case is going to take time, right? The case is going to take like a long time, maybe a few years. So as soon as you know that you're going to have the surgery, just go ahead and file the lawsuit. Now the lawsuit is filed. Now you're going to wait 30 days usually for the other side to even appear, right? Now the other side has appeared, but then you're going to need to file it for what's known as a preliminary conference, which is the first meeting with the judge. And before you could get that, you have to give certain documents to the other side, like authorizations for medical records, bills of particulars, and you want to get certain documents from them, such as insurance information and whatever documents you want to get. So that's going to take another few months. So just to get to the preliminary conference can take you like 4 or 5 months. So yeah, I wouldn't really wait. I would just move forward on it right away. I don't see why people wait too long. I don't think it makes sense to wait. I don't think it really helps. It just delays the case. I like to be aggressive, move the case, be aggressive, show them who's boss. That way they get scared and they start paying up real money. Okay, and then Corey Cash says, I had an accident in 2019. I had 2 surgeries, 5 manipulations, just got discharged from therapy in December of 2022 in New York, Brooklyn. Oh, okay, I'm in Brooklyn. That's where I am. Okay, great. I'm sorry to hear that, though. That's pretty serious, 2 surgeries. Do you have any idea when my case might settle or go to trial? I couldn't tell you just from the comment. I would have to check like ATTY LAW, but I don't mind like helping you. Just text me 347-566-9595. Text me, and text me your name. The text is private. Here it's public. Obviously, it's YouTube, right? You don't want everybody knowing your information. But text me privately. It's all attorney-client privilege, by the way. When you text me, it's all privileged. So I'm not going to be able to tell anybody. It's all confidential. I can't even tell if you have an attorney. I can't even tell that attorney, right? Because you're having a consultation with me, so it's all privileged and secret. But I'd be happy to just look it up. I mean, there are a few sources where you could look things up, and you could even do it yourself. There's eLaw, I think it's E-Law. There's also NYSIF, the New York State Civil Electronic Filing System, NYSCEF. I think if you just type that into Google, it comes right up, and you could search as a guest, so you don't need any password or anything. And then there's also something known as Web Civil Supreme. If you type in Web Civil Supreme, I think it's also known as eTrack. You get into that eTrack and you put in the lawyer's name, it has all their cases. You put in your name, it should find the case, and you could see what's happening with it. But I can give you a little bit more information because I'm kind of good at understanding it. It might be hard for you to understand all the, legal lingo. Sometimes it's hard to understand. But yeah, it sounds like a good case. 2019 crash, 2 surgeries, 5 manipulations. Oh, why would they do 5 manipulations? That's kind of odd. Is that manipulations under anesthesia? That's kind of like similar to epidural steroid injections. But why would they need 5? Just got discharged from therapy, December 2022. Sounds like the case is probably in discovery, but I'd be happy to give you a personal consult. And then Katie and Moore says, I was in a taxi cab when I met in with a school bus. I have 2 surgeries to the neck and back. Can you tell me what my case might be worth? Taxi cab and a school bus. What I want to know, who was at fault? The school bus was at fault, and the school bus has a big policy. That could be a nice case. That could be a really nice case with 2 surgeries. 2 surgeries to the neck. Were these like fusion surgeries? That could be a serious case. I mean, as long as there's serious property damage, if it's in New York or somewhere else, just let me know where it is. you could also just text me 347-566-9595. I'd be happy to give you a personal consultation, review it. And if there's any issues, I'd be happy to help you. It just depends. Sometimes people have a case and, there are no issues and the case is moving the right way with the right lawyer, and it could be worth many millions of dollars. Other times somebody might have a case and they think that, that it's going well, but then the person handling it might not be doing the right job, or there are a lot of different things, that could be happening behind the scenes that no one would know about and that you as a client just can't know about. So yeah, that's just something that happens. And Callie King says, is it okay that my lawyer is sending a demand letter before I'm fully done with treatment? I'm toward the end, but my lawyers believe I have more than enough treatment at this point to get the policy limits. Yeah, it's fine to send a letter if, before you're done with the treatment, if you have enough treatment, if the policy is small, that's fine. I don't really like, demand letters. I don't like the whole concept of demand because it feels like, hey, I'm begging, like, please give me some money. And then invariably what happens is, almost as a rule, when you make a demand, the insurance company will give you less than you ask for. So you're demanding, you're saying, give me, let's say 100,000. And they say, okay, we'll give you 20. And then you have to come down, right? Now you can't even go back to the 100 because you have to come down because they gave you something, right? So now you have to come down and then try to settle it for like 80 or whatever. So I don't like those things. What I like to do is just evaluate the case and see what the case is really worth, like objectively, maybe focus group the case. You could do a focus group, which is like getting, say, 12 people, like a jury, and present the case to them, give them an hour long statement of what the case is about from the plaintiff's perspective, which is your perspective, then give them an hour from the defendant. You might have to pay them like $100 or something. You find people on the internet or whatever, and then see what they think it's worth, right? And then write up like a letter, but not a demand letter, but a settlement opportunity letter. But what you put in the letter is you put a deadline, right? So you say like, okay, this case is worth $1 million. Pay it by October 27th, 2023 at 5 p.m. If you don't, that's fine. But then, the $1 million will never be on the table again, and will never accept $1 million or less ever again from then on. After 5 p.m. on October 27th, 2021, like 30 days after that time, it'll be $3 million. Right? And then the insurance companies go crazy, like boom, their heads explode. They're like, oh my God, because they evaluate the case at the beginning. They set a reserve. So the reserve is like the maximum they think they're ever going to pay. So they may set, I don't know, a certain reserve. But now it's like you're blowing up their reserves. You're telling them, hey, I'm not afraid. I'm coming to trial. Pay me what it's worth. So that's the way I like to do it. But not all lawyers are doing that. There's a few lawyers that are, but not all lawyers are doing it that way. Some lawyers are still doing it the old school way. And so, I can't really speak to that. But yeah, but a letter in general to try to settle is fine. And then ATTY says, do wrongful deaths usually settle at mediation? I have one coming up in October. Thank you. It's hard to say. Nothing is really usual. Everything is on a case-by-case basis. Everything needs to be reviewed. So the best thing to do is to text me, the 347-566-9595. There's nothing really that's usual. Mediations can settle cases. What I like to do, and I've talked about this before, is before going to a mediation, I like to make sure that the other side gives me a good faith offer. So for example, if you have a wrongful death lawsuit, you sit down with your lawyer and you and your lawyer talk and you say, look, what is this case really worth? What are we trying to get? What's my bottom line? What's the least amount that I would take? I won't take less than X. Let's say I won't take less than $1 million, but I think the case is worth maybe like, 1.5, 2 million. And on a high end, if I went to trial, maybe it's worth 3 million, right? So it's between 1 and 3. But I won't take less than 1. But if they gave me 1, I would probably or think about taking it, right? So now what you do is you tell the defendants, okay, give me a good faith offer for me to come to the table, for me to get to mediation. Don't just go to mediation without anything, right? You don't want to show up to mediation and have them tell you how bad your case is and get disheartened. And then all they'll do is just lowball you and give you like $50,000 offers. Then you'll feel even worse. You'll think, oh, I had my hopes up. I thought it was going to settle, but now they just destroyed my hopes. That's what they want to do, because it's like a psychological trick that they pull on people. So what you want to do is get a good faith offer. So if you're thinking a case is going to settle for $1 million, let's say, or more, make sure they give you at least like $500,000 offer, good faith already, right before the mediation. Now there's $500,000 on the table. That's good faith. That shows good faith, right? Now I can come to the mediation. Maybe I'll get more, and you negotiate the case. So that's what I would do. Okay, and then what else? Your preacher says, okay, that makes sense. Thanks. Yeah, thank you and good luck. Yeah, it sounds like you had a pretty good case. And then Melquan says, my back fusion surgery is a month before the statute of limitations is up. Does it affect my case because we didn't file sooner? No, it doesn't affect your case as long as you file before the statute of limitations. You can't file after, because that's a very strict deadline. Even if it's 1 day later, they won't accept it. So make sure you file it. You don't necessarily have to have the surgery before the statute of limitations. It doesn't matter. I mean, even if you don't have a fusion, right? Even if you have, let's say, a contusion, like a boo-boo, like a little black and blue that goes away, you can still file a lawsuit for it. Maybe it's worth like, small amount, like 5,000. You just file a lawsuit for it and get the 5,000. You don't have to put, in New York, you don't even have to put the amount in the lawsuit. What you're suing for is, if you're in the Supreme Court, it's just you're above the jurisdictional limit of all the other courts. You're in the Supreme Court. So the sky's the limit, right? There's no ceiling, there's no cap. You could sue for hundreds of millions, for billions, right? There's no limit. And the jurisdictional limit of the lower courts, like the civil courts, is only like, I believe, 25 or 50,000. So it's really low. So that's the way they do it in New York. In some places, you may have to put the actual amount you're suing for, but I would leave that up to your lawyer. But I don't think you need to wait for the surgery to file a lawsuit, because like I explained earlier in this video, just a few minutes ago, everything's going to take time, right? You file the lawsuit, but after you file the lawsuit, you're going to give them a month or two to appear in the case, because you need to serve them. That takes a few weeks. They need to answer the lawsuit and appear. That takes at least 30 days, right? Then you need to get a preliminary conference or the first meeting with the judge. That's going to take a few months. So just to get to that preliminary conference from the lawsuit, it could be like 6 months. So just file the lawsuit now, get the surgery done. You could always, the defendants love to delay. So if it's not 6 months is quick, right? So if it's not 6 months, it could be 8 months, 9 months, if you need more time for the surgery or whatever. But yeah, I don't see why you would wait. It doesn't make sense. Okay, and then Miko says, how long do cases take to end after a deposition if you have already healed from surgery in a car accident? Yeah, so again, after a deposition, if it's a clear case, it really depends on like how much insurance there is. If there's limited insurance and you've had a serious surgery and it's related to the crash, you could settle it at the deposition. I've had lawyers not even take the deposition. Like the defense lawyers will show up to a deposition and they'll say, listen, I don't want to take this deposition because look, I have 100,000 policy. I see you have the surgery. How about, we offer you like 95,000 right now. Would you take it? We settle the case. So that way they don't even have to do the deposition, right? Because it's so clear. It just depends. But if it's a bigger policy, let's say it's a 5 million policy, well, they're not going to just give you 5 million, right? In that sense, they might say, let's go to a mediation. But again, make sure they give you the good faith offer. So there's a lot of different, moving pieces flying at you. It's not really something that you could say that it always takes like 3 months after a deposition. It always takes, a certain period of time. It could always be different. They could settle a case, like I said, before a deposition, during a deposition, after a deposition. If they don't, then there could be many reasons why, right? It could be an issue with liability. It could be an issue with damages. It could be an issue with causation. They might think that your injury wasn't caused by the crash. But yeah, usually deposition is a good, it's like halfway. It's at least halfway the case is done. It's a good time. You want to make sure that the lawyer preps you for the deposition. You do a good job, and you want to make sure that your lawyer does a good job with the defendant. That really, does a good job with the defendant and all the witnesses. And then after a deposition, as long as the documents are all exchanged, you can then certify the case as trial ready. Then it goes on the trial calendar, and then you're waiting for the actual trial. So I would say depositions like 50%, maybe more than 50% done. Maybe even like closer to like after depositions. If it's a simple car crash and there's no document discovery, it might even be like 75% done. So I hope that helps. Okay, and then Corey says yes. And then Letitia says, how do you feel about the Take Care of Maya case? Oh yeah, that's interesting. Somebody else was telling me about that today. One of my clients was texting me about that. Yeah, I didn't see it. I heard about that case. That's a horrible case. I mean, that's actually what I heard about that was that the girl had CRPS, right? That's the complex regional pain syndrome. And I believe the trial is going on now in Sarasota. They're suing for like $200 million because the hospital, I believe, kept the girl away from her mother, and her mother got so depressed that the mother hung herself. It's an interesting case, definitely interesting, and definitely it's going to tell people all about CRPS and how horrible this disease is. We did a trial about CRPS in February, and that was a mild case, and we got over $500,000, and we have a few cases now that we're handling for CRPS. So I'm going to have to read up on that case, maybe watch that documentary. I know there's a documentary on Netflix, maybe watch some of the trial, and then maybe I could do a video about it. I was going to dive into it. I haven't really been following it just because I've been busy, handling cases and busy in my practice, but it is interesting. And I saw a few other lawyers are talking about it on their YouTube channels. So thank you for asking that. But I think it's a very interesting case. And then Kadian says that her injury was on Long Island, or that her case is on Long Island. Okay, yeah. So if it's in Long Island, just text me 347-566-9595. I'm happy to help. I know all about New York cases because I'm here. And then Audie says, appreciate the help. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for asking. I'm sorry to hear that you're going through that. It's terrible to have a wrongful death case like that. And then Ron says, what does a 3-level lumbar fusion go for in New York? Liability is there, and it's a $5 million in reserve. I mean, if you have liability and it's a 3-level lumbar fusion, I couldn't say exactly, but just the injury itself, I would think is worth 7 figures, definitely. Like we just had a multi-level fusion case with a tough liability because it was a slip and fall on ice, and we ended up settling it for 3.5 million. So if you have a 3-level lumbar fusion with good liability and 5 million in insurance, yeah, it could be worth the full 5 million. It could be worth close, like from 3 to 5, I would say. It's hard to say exactly. You got to understand like all the different elements of damages, because you have the pain and suffering past, meaning from the date of the incident up until the date of the trial, right? As well as future from the date of the trial and for the rest of your life. So your age plays a factor. Then you have loss of enjoyment of life. That's a second thing. Then third, you can sue for economic damages, right? And economic damages include things like lost wages, lost salary, the value of household services, right? All these things. So you get a good economist. Also, you might want to get a life care planner, and they'll write out all the different medical costs that you have to have, right? Like physical therapy, future surgeries. So it could add up. The economics could be into the millions, plus the non-economics could be into the millions. So the number could be tremendous. But the important thing to remember is that settlement is going to be lower than verdict. Verdict is usually going to be higher if you're willing to take it all the way. So if it's like 5 million and they have more beyond the 5 million, you might want to go all the way and take a verdict. If it's good liability, you can get a lot more money. But if you feel like for whatever reason you need the money quicker, or you don't want to wait, or there's some other reason, you could try to settle it. But I would go for the full 5 million. Why not? That's a good case. Okay, and then Everett McLean says, hi, you're doing great with the intel. Can you talk about the benefits when you file a lawsuit against a private bus company as opposed to a bus company like New Jersey Transit? Yeah, sure. That's a good question. I mean, with a private bus company, what you would want to do is you would want to get certain discovery. Like I have an actual template of discovery that's specific to buses. Now, when you're doing a case against the transit, New Jersey Transit or New York City Transit Authority, it's similar. They might have some of the same discovery, but it might be a little different. Like a lot of the transit buses, what they'll do is they'll have cameras inside the bus and also outside the bus. So these cameras are going to actually show the accident happening on more recent cases. So you want to get that surveillance. So we have templates for that too. And of course, you don't want to always just use the templates, but the templates are a good starting point because they give you like maybe 50 or more requests for information that you should have. But then you want to also tailor it and write it, specifically for your client's case. So you want to do both. You want to use the basics like a foundation, and you want to build upon that and serve like a strong discovery demand and get the proper discovery for the bust cases. But bust cases are, they're usually pretty good cases. They're usually worth a lot of money as long as there's an injury, like a surgery or, any kind of disc injury, like a herniated disc. They could be really significant cases. We had a case with a bus. A lady was on a bus, I believe, and then there was another bus, and then there was a truck. It was like a weird accident, and I think that one settled for close to 2 million at a mediation. So yeah, bus cases can be very, very good cases. Also, trucking crash cases. That's also kind of a specialized field. Trucking cases can be very good too. But that sounds like a good case. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's see what other questions we have. I don't think we have any others right now. I'm in the live chat feature. I think we have any others right now. So yeah, let us know what other questions you have. We're here for you. Our goal is to help serious injury victims and families. And we'll probably do a few more videos. But thank you for that idea. The take care of my case. I'm gonna look into that. Maybe do a video about that. That's interesting. That's an interesting case. There's also a few other celebrity kind of famous cases that I see on YouTube and in the news. So maybe we'll try to do some videos about that. And I have a few videos planned about verdicts. Not just in New York, but I'm going to try to get access to some databases where I can get access to verdicts and settlements all over the country. So then I could do more like a nationwide video about nationwide verdicts in popular injuries like fusion surgery, traumatic brain injury, could be like CRPS, could be like just a regular herniated disc injury, whatever you guys, the viewers, want to see. Let us know what injuries you want to see, because I can maybe get a few case research nationwide. I'm going to try to subscribe to one of those databases, and then I have a few other videos planned. I know one of the videos that people seem to like that we released recently was how long versus how much. So we talked about how long does a case take, what are the factors in terms of length, and then how much am I going to get. And when we did that video at the end, I think I said I would do another one with case examples. So I'm going to try to shoot that maybe today or tomorrow, shoot another video with some case examples and talk about what people are waiting for, why it's taking time. Because you're always waiting for something, right? You're either waiting for the other side, or you're waiting for the judge, or you're waiting for your lawyer. So why are you waiting? Who are you waiting for? And then also how much? What are the factors that determine value? Usually it's if it's a lifelong, forever injury, that's going to make it worth more, permanency, right? And if it's a lower injury, then maybe it's worth less, but still could be significant if someone had surgery. And then Kenzie says, what about a spinal cord stimulator surgery with a rear end accident? Yeah, I mean, spinal cord stimulator, very, very serious. I don't recall doing one with a rear end accident recently, but a rear end accident, the good thing about a rear end accident is you should be able to get summary judgment, meaning there's no issue for a jury to decide on the question of who is at fault, right? You got rear-ended, so you're not at fault. So then you just get summary judgment. Now in New York, once you get that judgment, interest starts to run. You're getting 9% interest on the judgment, right? So then later, if you're going to trial and you get $1 million, it's not just $1 million, but it's also $1 million plus 9% on that $1 million. Going back to the date that you got the judgment, you can get the judgment right away, right? When you file the lawsuit, you can get the judgment in a few weeks, so it's a really good thing to have. So I would do that. And then spinal cord stimulator is a serious surgery. They only do that if it's a real serious injury. I mean, that's a stimulator in the spine. People have a remote control for it. I had a client who had that, but she had a slip and fall inside a school on some rainwater. It was a tough case, but we ended up getting, I think, 1.4 million settlement. That was a few years ago. That was, I think, right before COVID started. That was in January of 2020. And we got 1.4 million on that spinal cord stimulator case. But yeah, that's a serious injury. And then Audie says, how is Berkshire Hathaway's specialty insurance when they insure companies' vehicles involved in a wrongful death with a $1 million policy? Yeah, Berkshire Hathaway, I think they're okay. I think that's the same company that owns Geico. I believe Berkshire Hathaway, that's Warren Buffett. He has a lot of insurance companies, but they're fine. If they have $1 million policy, I would definitely do a full search for any excess, umbrella, supplemental, concurrent, or any other policies other than the primary, right? Because what they do is they tell you, hey, the primary policy is $1 million, but it doesn't mean that's all there is. So you want to always check for the excess and umbrella, any other policies. And if they say we don't have it, make sure you get like affidavit of search from the broker, affidavit of no excess from the insured, because, remember, who's giving you the answer? The answer that there's no excess is being given to you by the insurance company, right? But that's the insurance company that has the primary. The excess could be with a different insurance company. So how would they even know, right? So you want to get it from the broker, you want to get it from the insured, the actual company or the individual, whoever it is. You want to get it from them to say that there really is no excess, and we swear. So that's really, really important, because there could be much more. But yeah, if it's a wrongful death, I don't know if that's in New York or somewhere else. In New York, the wrongful death law isn't so great because it's limited to pecuniary loss, right? Meaning money. So, but they're changing it. It's on the governor's desk, the Grieving Families Act. Hopefully she signs it, and then it could be changed. Oh, I see it says Connecticut. Yeah, Connecticut, I'm not sure. I would defer to the Connecticut attorney. But yeah, wrongful death should be a strong case. Should be a big case like that. It should be worth millions. I mean, it should be, if it's only $1 million policy, they should probably tender it or give you something really close. Okay. So thank you for watching. I have to run, but please like and subscribe to our channel. Let us know what questions you have. We are here for you. Our goal is helping serious injury victims and families. And we are here for you. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.